Yoinks, Jason! It's Details Untold! Wow, man! Are you excited for another episode?
Oh, I'm so excited there, Nick.
I thought I'd throw something fun in there. How you been, man?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Good. So for anybody that's watching, we did not plan this out. For anybody that's listening, we are both wearing Hawaiian shirts. I would say in the same well, they're both blue.
They are.
They're just different shades of blue. I have Batman and Batman and the Joker on mine on surfboards. Jason has a wonderful palm leaf on his, in different places. It's nice. I like that.
I had to dress up for dinner tonight. So
you got it. Oh, you dressed. Oh, not for me. You dressed up for.
Oh no.
Dinner.
Yeah, had to dress up for dinner.
I just got the leftovers. Huh?
You got the leftovers from the steakhouse.
Well, listeners, welcome to Details Untold. This is the podcast where we said, hey, you other interview shows, you guys don't dive deep enough. We want to know more. So Jason and I came up with Details Untold. I think I should say that more often. Where we dive deeper into questions that we want to know from interesting people, everyday, fascinating people. That's what this podcast is about. We dive in, we learn more, we're fascinated along the way. So that's pretty much what we're all about. And we always like to do in the intro, what are you drinking tonight, pal?
Yeah, so I am having a drink tonight, and it is a Doppelbock Dunkel Bavarian beer.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah. Now say it as Scooby.
Like a Dunkelback bunkin' beer.
What are you drinking tonight, Nick?
Oh, here. Okay, so what? So it's a Dunkel Bunkin. I think I'm screwing it up more than I say it.
Doppelbock Dunkel.
Doppelbock Bunkel. I still can't see it.
Doppelbock Dunkel.
Doppelbock.
Doppelbock.
Doppelbock. I feel like that's whenever you see somebody that looks like you, but you've had a couple drinks. Hey, there's my Doppelbock. Instead of they have my doppelganger. Look at my Doppelbock.
All the German viewers, one of them are probably going to hate us after that.
Listen, I'm 62% German. That's
nice.
I'm up there. So it's funny. So I am drinking. It is called. Should I cover the brand name? I guess I should cover the brand name because they're not.
Put it up if they want to sponsor us. It's fine.
There we go. Cheap cheese. Pina colada. Again, we didn't know it was Hawaiian night on the show. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing about this is it's grape wine with cream and natural flavors, but it tastes like a pina colada. It's white. There's no grape. If you ask me, is there grape in it? I would say no. No, not at all. Mm-mm. And great radio, Jason. We both can't take a drink at the same time. That would be bad air right there.
Yeah.
So. Mm-hmm. But that's the drink of the week. And tonight's show, we have none other than a fascinating fella by the name of Manny. He is hold on, I got to read it because I want to make sure I get it right. A space wave death metal singer. He has his own studio. He writes, composes his own music. Welcome to the show, Manny. Hey, welcome in, Manny. How's everything going?
Everything is going great. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Details Untold. This is my co-host, Jason. I think you might know him.
Just a little
bit. It's been
a
while, but yeah, a little bit.
So now give me a little bit of background about you guys. So, Jason, this is your guest, Jason. So, normally they're mine. So I'm very interested to hear about your guys' background.
So we have quite a bit of a background actually, and it started even before we knew each other, technically, kind of. But we met working at our at a healthcare company that we worked for, and he was my boss. I worked for him for quite a few years. He got moved to another team.
Good boss.
He was, yeah. He was part one of my favorite bosses of all time.
Hey.
But we, in fact, I followed him to another team after he left my original team. That
There
was
we
on.
go. There we go. That's Manny. That must
yeah.
feel good, right? You got people following you.
Yeah, it was good. And then
it's awesome. So how many years is this?
Oh, we've known each other.
Let's do quick math.
2016, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Wow,
That's
I think 2016.
Like what, 8 years now?
Or 8 now, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah,
that
was
a while.
quick math on my part.
Time's flying.
So Manny, before you jumped on, I see something in the corner. What just went? What are you drinking, Manny?
I have the Sunny Delight vodka seltzer.
Whoa, Sunny D, huh?
It's so good. It's very nostalgic.
Yeah,
that's
wow.
awesome.
I picked up last week was the Twisted Teas, and that was good. And they had it was like a pack of 4. They had the original half and half peach, and then Rocket Pop. Remember the old Rocket Pops? Like the old and I was like so excited about the Rocket Pop. It was disgusting. It was drinking. It was like it tasted like a melted popsicle. Like it was gross.
That's gross.
It was so gross. Yeah. Like it was yucky. So but before you jumped on, I let all the listeners know that you are a space wave death metal singer. I had to write that down. I wanted to make sure I got that right. You write and you compose your own music. You have a studio, Luminera Studio. That's awesome.
Thank you.
You have tattoos, and you do this thing that I can't wrap my brain around it. It's called sim racing. So we're gonna have to explain that out.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So now, but I want to know, how long have you been writing music, and where did that come from?
So, I've been writing music probably since I was around 12, 13 years old.
Okay.
And I guess I have a pretty musical family. My grandfather played classical guitar. My uncle played piano. It sort of skipped over my dad. He was the techie one.
Okay. But he was on the back end, making sure everybody sounded good.
Yeah, he made sure everybody sounded good, and then he made the right career choices early on. And so the music, he's a big music fan though. So I was just always around music one way or another. And my grandfather started to show me guitar when I was around 10. I started writing shortly thereafter, and I never really stopped. Stayed a passion of mine.
Oh, that's awesome. So family get-togethers must have been, did they like jamming sessions and stuff?
Every once in a while, yeah, my grandfather would whip out the guitar and the whole family singing along at Christmas. I mean, songs I didn't know, but it was so cool.
There we go. So now writing music. So now where do you get your inspiration for songs? Like, is it like just everyday things? Is it like Taylor Swift when you break up with somebody? Like, do you ever look at somebody and you're like, I don't really like you, but I'm going to date you so I can write a great song about you? Like, where does that, what kind of songs do you write?
So at least at first, when I was younger, it did stem from life experiences. And, I had some tough experiences in my youth that music was a very good outlet for me. So things stemmed from there. But as I got older and I just got more comfortable with just what life is and who I am, it became more about telling stories with music. I think that's where the space sort of came in. Being a big sci-fi fan my whole life, it was like, cool, I could inspire myself by having something to write about, that isn't necessarily what I'm feeling.
Manny, so the space wave death metal. So you're into sci-fi and you're like, listen, I love sci-fi. I love death metal. And that's where the space came in.
Yeah. It gave me something that I could explore. It's weird. Like, I think my writing process is probably completely backwards for most people's, in that I name a song first based on like the concept I sort of have in mind. I'm a big like Rush fan, and yes, it's like that old school prog that goes very long and explores a lot of angles. And I can just, based off of that, can sort of picture things and write something vague in my mind that looks cool and sounds cool, and then I can sort of hear things that come out of it.
Okay. So from that, do you have does the music come first? Sorry, I guess I should ask that. Does the music come first, the title come first, and then the lyrics? Like, how does that work?
It is usually, for me, title, guitar, just being a guitarist mainly, it's just my natural way I go.
Right.
And then bass usually follows the guitar, drums are very natural, and I just kind of go with the flow with that. And then vocals are super last. Vocals, I sometimes mix a song completely before I decide to throw vocals on it, because it is very tertiary, I think, in my mind.
Right. Okay. So it's easier for you to have the music down and then fit words within it.
Absolutely. By far.
Wow. So, and I guess having the title, like, that's just your way of doing it, or did somebody kind of guide you into, like, that's kind of how, like, grandpa or uncle, like, title first and then follow, or was it just like, what, I don't have a direction,
right,
if I don't have a title?
It is, I think it's just from what I ended up into as I got older. And the sort of artists, I mean, Opeth is one of my favorite artists just of all time. And they are very, like, entire concept albums, right? Telling one big story across all of the songs. And just in an attempt and in a desire to just want to do that too, and do something at that scale, I figure, okay, one of my favorite aspects of these are these titles that I think are very haunting and resonate with me. Maybe if I start there, the rest will sort of follow.
Oh, wow.
So I want to touch on this, because I little background for the listeners and viewers. I've helped Manny a couple times with video recording some of the stuff he's done, which was really fun experience on my end.
Oh, yeah.
But your songs kind of do have like a story going between them, especially some of the newer songs. Like it's kind of if you want to, actually, I'll let you explain into it. It's almost chapters to a book. So
yes,
like you want to explain a little bit about that and how many more chapters you have left, and
sure,
when the next chapter's coming out. Throw a little plug in for yourself there as well.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so when I first started doing that project called The Valley Ritual, I did an EP, a 5-song EP, just in the studio at home, just playing the different instruments and wanting to experiment with writing full-length songs. And that one had its own story. There's a little bit of vampires in there and stuff. That was more fantasy, right? But then the space came along. So once we got there, and I wrote a song called Descent, that song was very standalone. It was like about crash landing, right? Spaceship crash land. Let's just make something that sounds chaotic and like it's descending and falling the whole time until you hit. But then based off of that, I started seeing a story around it. I was like, well, okay, why are they doing that? Who is that? Where were they before that? What's going on? And it ended up being like a whole other EP about just that, about just getting to that point and falling and having this whole weird Lovecraftian, almost cosmic horror story about meeting death on a planet that's uncharted and stuff like that.
Wow.
We got that done in the first EP. Now we have a second EP we're working on that will sort of finish the story off. But we've always had this idea for the last song, which we have to rename now because another band totally named their song that, and it's so
no.
I thought of it first, for the record, but we want it to be multi-part, but we also want to be silly and like start on part 4 and just pull a Star Wars.
I was going to say, that might have been taken, Manny. That might have been done before.
Yeah, we've been paying homage at that point. But so we want that to be a few more songs just for that part, just because it's such a pivotal ending. And we want to end on such a high note. But we are exhausted. Our music has gotten super complex and crazy, and we're gonna take a step back after this.
That is so. There's like this is like musical status, Manny. Like this is like rock opera stuff that you're coming up with. Like, is that like the grand plan? Like, is that kind of like what you're thinking? Like this is like you're building a rock opera, like because you're doing chapters. I wouldn't say necessarily like a musical, but if you're looking at it with such a complex, like, from the rockets crashing to, well, yeah, but who's on the ship? And then what are they doing on the ship? And then what happens after they meet death on a planet and stuff like like you had to get excited about that. Like that's what was your next step? Like what was your thoughts on that? Like was it like the band? Was it you? Like that's just so I'm just like elated by the whole idea of this chapter thing.
I think playing live was huge for me. Since I started playing and writing alone, I had always wanted to play on stage. And even though I had been playing guitar since I was very young, that opportunity never came up. Played in punk bands in high school, played in ska bands in high school, but never anything beyond the living room and the parents of a friend
Mhm.
getting tired of us. So I really wanted to do something fun and interesting and special that I could bring to the stage and it hopefully, stick out. And so far we've been well received, at least when we have someone there.
Yeah. That's so how do fans do you have fans, right? Like how do you like how does that go? Like I've never had a fan before. So like that's like, crazy. So like you have people that like come, like I know you guys play at a bar, like you guys play at a venue and you post, hey, we're gonna be here. Like you have
Yeah.
people show up to see you. Like do you have like do you guys have a name for these guys? Like you're a space band. So like do you have like tribbles or Trekkies or
You're
like
close. We call them like our crew. It's like
a
they're
crew?
part of the
Okay.
Starship crew, right?
There we go. That's cool.
And
See, you playing ahead. This isn't
we
just
were marketing a little,
Yeah, yeah. This is your drink of the week. I get you.
We know we're in Florida. We got Space Coast here, right? We rock the
Right.
astronaut outfit. We go
That's a
in
great
with
shtick.
that. Yeah, see,
That's
it's
a
fun.
great. You got to get a shtick, right? Like if you want to get
Yes.
noticed, you got to get a shtick. And did like you and the band can like talk about that? Like, hey, what can elevate us above, the other guys?
Yeah, thankfully, I've got some very like industry minded, very professional musicians that I managed to find along the way. And yeah, they've got those sort of insights from their experiences and they're willing to, you know, maybe get out of the comfort zone a bit and do a
Right.
couple of silly things to stick out because everybody's attention is on something. So
Right.
we got to pull a little bit.
Pull a little bit. That's neat to have like a shtick like that, right? Because there's so many different ways you can go. You can add to it. People can, like you said, they can really kind of like resonates with them, right? Like if you're like a Trekkie or a Tronny or I don't Lonnie. I don't. I'm running out of Lonnie. But like that kind of gives you like an outlet then, right? Like you have a band, right? Like you can go see them and, oh, these guys are great. They wear space outfits and stuff, and you can do things to it. That's so neat. Like a shtick is important and in this, and especially if you want to get noticed now, like there's so many people doing it that you have to have something that like helps you stand out.
Yeah, we've been at it for a little while, and we're not necessarily at a point where I'd say we have fans. I mean, we've got consistent followers. We have people who listen to us regularly, but we are at a point where, I've gone to a local venue on my own on another day, and I've spoken to someone, and they said, "Hey, there was this band here recently. They were in spacesuits. Those guys are awesome." And I'm like, "Are you serious?
That's cool.
It's my band."
That's great. So they did that. They did that unknowingly, though.
Yeah, I had no idea.
See,
I was like,
that's the best compliment, right?
Yes,
That's
it
the
meant a
best.
lot.
Like that's like not forced. That's like an innocent, like person just telling them, like, hey, like that's so awesome, Manny. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Like
I made a lot of that work worth it.
yeah, right. Like your music moves people. You're doing something. I would say you're definitely cornering the market for chapter music. Like I mean, you don't have to. I don't know what you call it, but like music that tells a continuous story, like is so cool. Like that's I'm excited. I was excited to talk with you and stuff.
Well,
and I'm excited to see the next chapter.
And some of the cool stuff too that if you watch, we'll have the video of Manny's YouTube channel or the Valley Ritual YouTube channel posted down in the comments or in the description. But one of the cool things about this is Manny's also into editing as well on the video side and doing a lot of cool visual effect type stuff. And he's been working on that a lot with his videos and getting into Unreal effects and stuff like that. So
Yes.
in a way, he literally is turning it into a visual story as well, besides just musical, which is really neat. So I don't know if you want to talk on that a little bit, Manny, but it's pretty cool.
Is it like self-taught or is this a studied thing?
It is since, I mean, Jason and I, we have a technical background and we have for such a long time. So being a creative person and just being technical at the same time, it sort of just marries at some point and you end up in these things by accident. So Unreal, just being a gamer, I have my attention set on Unreal. And then when I learned that it was a free tool, and I've always wanted to do filmmaking to some extent, but it's always a budget issue. And I realized how accessible it was. It seemed kind of crazy, but I was like, let's give it a shot. So we green screened, all of us, very, very little planning behind this, but we green screened ourselves in a bedroom, playing our instruments in our astronaut outfits.
Right.
And then we got a friend
Mom,
of a
I'm
friend.
playing with the band, okay? Leave me alone. We got the green screen up, Mom. Go away.
Then I had to explain the girl, right? The friend of the friend who comes in, like, well, she's in the music video. She's the girl.
Yeah, don't. Mom, I got to close the door so it sounds right, okay?
The rule is feet on the ground. That's what my mother always said.
Door's not locked, Mom. Just knock next time. Not insinuating that you live with the parents. I was just
no, it's okay. It's okay.
I couldn't pass that up.
This
got the green screens up and everything like that. That's awesome. So you just married. Just made sense.
Yep. Yeah, it all came together. It took a lot of time, but for what it is, I'm very proud of what we did and what we put together. Looking back on it, even if it is a very simple thing at the end of the day, I think it looks way beyond the dollars we spent on it, which are very, very few. It's equipment that I already invested in and had, and so super stoked on it. So that video, I think that was for Stellar Cartography. No, I get our own songs mixed up, but yeah,
it's good stuff. Chapter 4,
like
but that's Manny, we know how that feels, right? Like we know, like this podcast, right? Like me and Jason are very proud of it, and I think we're doing a really cool thing, interviewing really extraordinary people and stuff like that, and hopefully that, like you said, like takes off, like some people recognize it, and you get people behind it and stuff like that. I do have a quick question, and then I want to talk about your studio. I think that's so cool because I can see some of the stuff and everything like that. But like, how does one put together a band? Like, we got the band together, like Blues Brothers, like you're just going from one place to the next, like, yeah, there's the horn guy. Oh, there's like, how do you assemble a band, and where do you start?
I think it starts with a decision, and that you are either going to be the person who starts the band or you're going to be a person who joins the band.
Okay.
Two very different ventures, I think, but assuming you want to start one,
gives you more say, right? Like you get more of the direction of what's going on versus joining and then following.
Exactly. And I was so used to working alone, so I was very nervous about bringing other people in. So I wasn't just going to join some other band, right? I got all these ideas. I need people to hopefully be on the same page. And that's what you want to look for. So I think it starts with figuring out what you want to make. It could be something completely new, and that's okay. But these days, music, not that everything's been done before, but whatever we come up with, it's going to be a derivative of something, right? Or a mixture of something.
Right.
So figure out what that is. What do you hear in your head? Once you can at least put what you hear in your head or what you want to hear on paper and describe it, people are going to connect with that. And that's where you got to turn to some sort of platform. There's social media platforms now dedicated just to this, like Bandmix, I think, is one place I used to look. But I got lucky on Craigslist and didn't get murdered or have any organs stolen.
There we go. Yeah. Meet me in this alley by this lake. There's no gators in it. Come over here.
Once you meet one like-minded person, usually from there, it's a friend of a friend. It's a network. The musicians have all connected amongst themselves. So getting involved in that local music community and putting yourself out there, that's what it takes.
That's what it takes. Wow. So it's just finding the person, not the instrument. Right?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, what happens if you meet, like, if you already have like a bass guitarist and then you meet like a really cool other bass guitar and you're just like, oh man, you guys are going to just have to battle to the death. Like, I'm sorry. I want both of you and I'm not going to make that decision. So just whoever beats each other up and doesn't break the guitar can join the band. Like,
yeah, you're in, buddy. That,
Well,
that does happen. That does happen. So for
yeah,
sure, you have to be there. There's level of flexibility that I've had to put in, even if it is something I was trying to start. I mean, guitar was my passion, and I wanted to play guitar, but guitarists are a dime a dozen. Bassists are very rare. So I played bass in this band for a few years, just to
wow,
make sure I could get started. So being open to that too, I think is very important.
very important. Okay, very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. Yes,
Because I
Jason.
because I remember back when I filmed the first video with you, that
Mhm.
was in the bedroom in the house with
Yes.
the like carpet thing on the wall. It was just you and one other
That
guy
was
at
a
that.
party.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
a party. But it was just you and one other guy at the time, right? Like that's all
Yep.
you had in the band. You guys didn't have the drummer. Like, so one thing about Manny is he pretty much can play anything. It feels like I don't know how many instruments you know, but like you can do drums, guitar, bass, sing. What else can you do besides those?
I'm pretty like beginner pianist. I'm not too
Mhm.
bad. Um, I'd probably stop there. I think
Yeah,
that's probably where my strengths are. If it's stringed, I can at least take an attempt at it.
Right
that's
now,
still impressive.
are you ear taught?
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. All ear taught, all self taught,
Oh
other
wow,
than
that's
others' teachings.
That's awesome. So now what about Luminera? Like that's where did the did you start in the studio? Did the studio start after the band? Like where did that kind of come in at?
I found an early interest in audio production with things like Fruity Loops back when I was like a teenager, and everyone's pirated that at some point. Not that I ever pirated it. Uh,
We don't
but
condone that
that,
here.
no, no,
The only pirate here is me. That's it.
no. And that's just something that stuck for some reason. I thought it was super cool being able to record and film and capture that for some reason stuck with me in all the different forms: photography, video, audio. um, and just kind of throughout the years there have been opportunities and needs for me to be at least proficient with Photoshop and video editing and these little things. And then as time has passed by, folks haven't had to do that, and it's become less needed to know how to do that. So kind of had this opportunity where I had friends that did music, and I could be a one-stop shop. Right? We could
Right.
record a song, I could do your album cover, I could make your logo, we could push you out the door like you were already a made band.
Wow.
When realized I could do that, I had a band that was a friend of mine nearby just ask if I would take a chance and try it with them, and we had a good experience. So I decided to keep with it.
That's awesome. So you have like people like you can have people come in and record their songs and stuff like that. And do you ever have anybody come in and you're just like, they're paying me, but this is crap. Here's your album.
I have been super fortunate thus far. It's been like word of mouth, right? It's been a
Right.
community. So far, even it's been interesting because I am usually someone who I like a lot of music, but if it's not my thing, it's not my thing. I'm not going to enjoy it, right?
Right.
But I've had some stuff in here that's not my thing. But for some reason, just being involved with the process and seeing the passion of the person, it doesn't matter. It's so cool. It's so fun. You get into it, even if it is country trap. It doesn't matter. You're gonna have fun.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Now, Manny, being a studio owner, I gotta ask for all the nervous people out there, right? Like I've always had a desire to be like a voiceover or like in
Mhm.
cartoons or do like commercials and stuff like that. Like I would assume that I'd have to go to a studio to kind of record that stuff. Like how do people that want to sing, want to, you know, they have songs, right? But they don't have their closet isn't big enough, they don't have the audio equipment, so like your kind of studio kind of like welcomes everybody, right? So like how does one find a studio? How do they find the right person? How do they mesh? Like what should they look for
Sure.
like in a Manny at Luminera, like like somebody that's welcoming and kind.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. I like to think of our studio as very beginner friendly. I like being artists' first experience. I think that gives grace sort of my way too, and I can give it back to them, and we can kind of learn together.
Learn
That's been
together,
really
right?
valuable. Um, but when you're looking, I think for these kinds of services, it is tough out there, especially when it comes to audio. you're going to find a lot of people who are going to want to charge by time. That's really an
Okay.
industry standard, right? It's an hourly thing, and it's in their best interest to record you, get you done quickly, or not quickly, but not necessarily to your liking, but to the studio's profit margin, which
Right.
is fair. It's a business, right? But
Right. It's a business. Yeah. Yeah.
if you're looking for something specific, though, if you really are, if you have a vision in mind, it's not just a matter of getting things down. um, I personally operate on a song by song basis. I like to
Okay.
make sure that you're happy with a product, and I think that's becoming more popular. So I
Okay.
would look in that direction, and be very open with the person you reach out to. Like, it's not something I've done before. I am a little nervous about the process. What does it look like?
Right.
Um,
And the,
usually,
the person's
you're gonna get it.
response, that's what you go off of, right? Like what if you pour your soul out saying like, hey Manny, I want to be a voiceover.
Right.
And you're like, that's not my kind of studio. It's like, so okay, so I don't want to go to Manny's studio. I
That's
want
right.
to go,
That's right.
I want to, I want to find somebody like that. Now you said something like you're a very beginner studio. I sorry, like a studio for beginners, I should say it that way. So like are studios labeled like that? Or is it just like is that like intermediate, beginner, elite? Do they have that kind of
No,
structure?
as you say that, I realize that all studios are really going to try to portray themselves as high tech and high end and elite as possible. So they
Right.
kind of do it to themselves. They make themselves very intimidating
They're
looking.
very intimidating, right?
Mhm.
Like like I haven't contacted one before because I'm like, I don't want to go in bumbling being like, hey, I can read for commercials, and they're like, read it faster, you suck, like don't do this. And I'm like, no, I want to sound like Elvis, and I know you have a knob that makes me do that. And so like, okay, so they're not. So I mean, and it makes sense, right? Like they're a business. They want to sound like they're better than everybody else. But so maybe that label isn't there, right? Like
Right.
beginner, intermediate. Because again, if you're a beginner, that also puts you kind of like in a teaching status, right, Manny? Like you said, like you learn from them just as much as they could learn from you.
Yes.
So I mean, that's really cool, right? Like they're not just going in with their guitar singing into a microphone, right? Like, like they can learn from you and you can say, hey, maybe tweak this or something like that. So I think studio should be labeled like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
because if I am a professional and I'm like, I got my band, we want to get in and out of here in an hour, just
Yeah.
hit record, that should be like an elite like studio, right? It's not
Mhm.
saying anything that you're not elite, like you said, all the background stuff is there, right? You got the mixing boards, you can record and everything like that. That should be standard studio, right? But the
Right.
studio should mix with the people, and I think that's really cool that you're willing
And
to do that and stuff like that.
one of the cool things that Manny does too is he doesn't just do audio mixing and audio recording. Like he also does videos for bands and other stuff too. Like we recorded one for a band once. I helped them out recording one. And I mean, we were in a garage recording in the middle of the summer. It was like it must have been 110 degrees in that garage. We were
Yeah,
In
dude.
sweating like
Florida, that's got to
That's a
be
crazy.
hot
like
day,
a
bro.
real feel, yeah.
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 But that video turned out awesome. Like we were just recording in a garage, right? Like we're not some high tech. Like, he wasn't some high tech budget setup, but we're out there with like 3 or 4 cameras, like tripods going off the ceiling.
Heck yeah.
It was awesome. But the video was amazing. Like Manny did an awesome job editing it and putting it all together for them. So it's pretty cool. Like between the audio and the video portion of it, now that you've kind of gotten into both, like when it comes to the studio side, which one do you enjoy more now?
Oh my God, video by a long country mile.
Yeah.
Music is so labor intensive. It's awesome. It's so cool, but it is usually like an 8-hour day with the artist getting it recorded, right? And then it's maybe another 8-hour day of editing, mixing, getting a draft together. You send it off to them. They have feedback. There's another hour or so of implementing that feedback, and that can go back and forth a couple times.
Right.
If you start calculating the hourly rate with those numbers, you're not gonna want to do what I do.
Right.
But videos, it's 1 or 2 days of shooting. It's a maybe an afternoon of editing usually, depending on how intensive the work is, and you've got a product in your hands, and there might be feedback, there might be edits, but it is a much more streamlined process. I've come to really appreciate that.
Now, are you the director on that? Like, do you kind of like take the direct, like, do you hear their vision? Do they come in with a crew and then you just like cut it? Like, how does that, how does that part work?
Usually, I do prefer that the artist has at least some sort of vision, some sort of idea or an inspiration in mind, because I think that's really the key. Since we are so, I mean, Jason and I had a 2 cam setup, maybe a 3 cam setup. We had to lean on vision. You know, we knew what it looked like in our heads. We knew it had to be tight shots. We knew it had to be grungy, and we had to hide the fact that we were in a freaking garage. So we kept those things in mind with our shots. That's how that sort of can translate, I think, and be effective in camera.
Right. Well, and the reason I ask about the directing part of it, because like if like you said, you were in a garage, you had to do tight shots, and then as you progress, as you get bigger, and you know you can go more places, right? Like you started in the bedroom, and then you guys went to the garage. Like you're moving into bigger, better places. But as you watch your videos that you're shooting and you're directing and you're picking camera angles and stuff like that, and then you can progress, so you can change some of that stuff. But do you ever look back and you're like, no, I like that tight. I like the camera twisted a little bit. Like, do you have like like how all directors have like their way of shooting? Like, do you kind of have that stylized shooting? Like, do you have camera angles that you like to hit, or like like the full body shot or something like that? Or is it
Right.
kind of like whatever their vision is, you'll kind of I want 1 camera. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you do 2 and 3 and one's twisted to the side, you're going to like it more. Do you find yourself kind of having a style? Like that's the long-winded question.
No, it's a good one. It's definitely making me think about if I do or not. Because yeah, we are, and I am definitely in a cinematographer role. I'm in a director role. I'm calling for most part the shots, and I've got thankfully people like Jason and family and other friends that help me with other operations while we're there. But oh man, I lost my thought. What are we talking about?
Director, like shots and like directing and
like your vision.
Yeah,
your
style.
vision,
That's what it was.
like your style. Yeah.
I don't know if I have one yet, and I almost want to look back at how I film things, and if there's any sort of patterns there. I know I
There's a
like to
pattern.
think I'm
There's a
very
pattern.
intentional. There's got to
Yeah.
be, right? I'm
There's a
human. I've
pattern.
got to do something.
Right.
But I definitely think every shot we do, because it is in my hands and we've only got so many attempts at it, there's not a lot of other cameras providing redundancy.
Right.
There's so much intention behind every shot. I like to think we do a good job of framing things very dramatically,
Okay.
even in silly things.
Right. Well, and even like the cuts go from like I said, when you're going from a handheld to like a camera, and like even the style, right? Like if you think of like a well, movies, right? Like 28 Days Later was very Rogue camera, like handheld,
Yes,
like it
yeah.
was very stylized. And then but then you go to like something like just thinking along like zombies, like I Am Legend, right? It was very smooth camera angles, like the backgrounds were very crisp and clean and stuff like that. But then
Yeah.
do you have that kind of idea, like no, I kind of like the rough, like yeah, we're in a garage, or do you want to move to like the crisp clean?
I like that more raw approach.
Okay.
Even in our music video, which is sci-fi, it's like
Right.
B-movie sci-fi with a little more polish on it.
Right.
I
Yeah,
like,
B movie. Yeah, that's a good
yes,
B movie. Like, you got Ash could be in the background, Bruce Campbell will
yes.
show up. It's the same guy, by the way. Oh yeah. So it's like a B movie. That's really and even that plays into the space theme. Like that's really
Yes.
cool. Like B movie space. Like man, Manny, this is great. Like this is really cool. I appreciate you diving in with us here. It is time though for questions from the hat. So Manny,
Dun, dun, dun.
The hat.
we have our Magic Academy hat with a bunch of quick fire questions. Okay.
All right.
So just they're again quick fire. We're not that intelligent, so you're not going to get like boggled by any of these things. I was hoping to get Jason to spit up on his mic. They're going to be quick fire, right? They're nothing that's crazy. But if you do give an interesting answer, then we might dive back into it, right? Or we
Okay.
might dive into it at that point. That's typically how I like to do it. But anyway, okay, and we'll do like 5 of them. There's a whole handful, but
Cool.
let's see here. Okay, this is funny asking you: silence or background noise, like when it's just Manny.
Background noise, yeah.
Background noise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of
Yep.
it.
So
Yeah.
pivoting to that, do you listen to your own music?
Oh man, so that's funny that you asked that. I do sometimes. I don't listen to the newer stuff as much
Okay.
because it is newer, but I think I have this weird nostalgia with my first EP that sometimes I just put it on and think about being that age and being that sad for no reason at all.
Now, I got a question though. I got a question because it's a very good question, Jason. I got one on top of that. Is do you not listen to your newer music because like those actors that are like, I don't watch my movies, or do you not listen to it because you're like, I just recorded it, I was there, like I remember it, like I don't have to re-listen to it?
After the recording process and everything we go through, I hear our songs hundreds of times before it finally goes out. I'm just tired of it. I think at that
Right.
point, I'll come back around on them, I'm sure.
Yeah. See, well, because I asked because I like, we're a couple of podcasts and people ask me, they're like, Nick, do you listen to your podcast? Like if you find it interesting enough to listen to, then I'll listen to it. And I have listened to it because I swear sometimes I black out and I miss, like I'm talking, but like I'll forget about it. But then other times I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I think it's fun, right? Like love your, your art, and but I do get it. At the same time, it's your art, right? Like a painter. Like, no, I was singing. We were painting for hours and hours and hours. Like, I know what it looks like. Like, I don't have to listen to it anymore. So that makes sense. Like you don't, because you did it so repetitively.
Yes.
Versus like, I just trust the process. Like I did it and I'm done with it. Like, it makes sense. That's a good answer. Good answer.
Thanks, man.
Okay, let's see here. Personal motto or motivational line.
Nothing worth doing is worth half-assing.
I like that.
I think I heard Christy Carlson Romano say that or something. As the most random persons in Hollywood said it, and I was like, "Damn,
that's good, right?"
And I kept it, man. Yeah,
I think about that all the time. Like, yeah, don't half-ass that. Like, do it. Just do it the whole thing, because you're gonna have to come back and do it. That's good. Don't anything worth doing is not worth. Yeah, I like that. Okay, next one is guilty pleasure snack.
Ooh, guilty pleasure snack. Well, I love me a Take 5. Are you familiar with Take 5?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
This is a Reese's thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's a product. It's one of their things, yeah.
Like a Reese's, it's like a bunch of stuff in it. That's good.
Peanut butter and chocolate and caramel and then a pretzel. Love it.
That's good. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, this is a good one too. I'm glad. I swear to God, these are just random in here. Is Elvis dead or did he fake his death?
Man, Elvis was such a mess by the end. He definitely died and he's been dead.
You think?
I think so.
Okay, we'll go after that. I'm a big Elvis.
That makes Nick sad. Yeah, he's a big Elvis fan.
I'm sorry. Sorry to the king. Sorry to Nick.
Okay. This one's fun too. Okay, so this is the last one. If you could get to hang out with anybody living, so we'll make it. No, we don't have to go back when they're dead. Anybody that's living for a day, who would you pick? And again, we can just pluck this person out of reality, put them with Manny all day long. Who and they have to hang out with you. Who would it be?
Whoa, that's a good one, man. Whoever's kind of that dark puppet leader over all of the banks on Earth, I'd like to sit down with them and just see if I can get them to change their ways, man. Just
so
like, come on.
You believe in the they. Me and Jason have talked at great lengths of the them, the they.
Man.
Like
the big eye,
but the them, right? Like the them that control everything.
Yes.
But you don't know who them are.
Yeah.
They're just there.
Yep.
That's a good one.
I want to talk to them.
Never thought about that, you want to talk to them? What?
That's right. Give me that.
It's a good
like
one.
when I was a kid, like it sounds so like a teenager, I should say. I was like, I want to like watching the X-Files and all these like sci-fi, like the FBI was always there, right? Like the
Yeah.
FBI would always, the spaceship would crash and the FBI is looking into it, right? And when I was like a teenager, I was like, I want that job. I want the job that nobody knows is a job, like Men in Black, right? Like I want that
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
that's not a job, but it's a job, and I get paid to do it. Like
I
that's
know the
like
secrets, man.
I wanted to be a them. Yeah, yeah, that is true. Yeah, I really like the secret stuff. Like I really like knowing the backstage studio stuff. Like how did things work? Every
Yeah.
job I've had has been at like a theme park or something like that, and it was always like I got a kick out of it. Like somebody asked me, "Does that ruin it for you?" I was like, "No," because I get to see how it all works. Like how does it all come together? So I bet you. I'm gonna have to find a studio where I'm at, Manny. I bet you I would really get a kick out of like the back end, cutting and producing and oh
No
man,
doubt.
that sounds fun. That sounds fun.
For
So
sure.
you survived questions from a hat. So,
Nice.
very good, very good. Now I do have a couple more questions for you since we got some more time with you.
Sure.
Real fast, tattoos. I saw a couple.
Yes.
You're an artist. So like when you get a tattoo, is it a whim thing? Is it a drawn out thing? Is it like you go like I have a friend that just has an artist and he's like right here, man, this is where you have like and he walks out with whatever the guy is,
Oh wow.
feeling that day. And I'm like, man, that if he had a Pop-Tart versus like Fruit Loops or like pancakes, that could be a whole different, or just coffee, be a whole different tattoo, man. I tell you that. And he's like, "Oh man, I trust the artist." I was like, "That's for for everything."
That's a lot of
Yeah.
trust. That's a lot
That's
of
a lot of
trust.
trust.
A lot of trust.
I don't have that level of trust and definitely had commitment issues in my 20s. So I actually didn't get my first tattoo until I was about 31, 32.
Okay.
But I had always known that if I was going to get a tattoo, it was going to be Star Wars related. I've always loved Star Wars. It's something I shared with my father. And after all these years, Star Wars hasn't ruined itself. Okay, I'm good to get it on my skin at this point.
Right.
So my entire left arm is all Star Wars stuff. I have my father's name and my grandfather's name.
There we go.
In how the English
Right.
is written in Star Wars.
Star Wars language.
yeah, in Orabesh is I think
Right.
the alphabet. So it's very drawn out. It's very planned, very very deliberate. The most on whim one I got was the little die you see here, which is a matching one I got with my brother and one of my best friends. That was a little bit on a whim, but even then, I think we've joked about this one for a couple years.
But that's like so much meaning behind it. That's awesome that you got somebody to go in with it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, man, that's Star Wars is a big. I love Star Wars. Star Wars is a big thing. My kids all love Grogu, but they've never watched Mandalorian. But they're like Grogu, and my daughters too. One of my daughters is 2, and if people call him Baby Yoda, she's like, it's Grogu, and they're like,
awesome.
wow, you're cute. And she's like, I'm like, no, you got to listen. She's like, it's Grogu, and I'm like, that's his name is Grogu, and they're like, oh, and I'm like. Okay. Yeah, so that's funny. So now to wrap everything up, because I know we're coming up on time. Sim racing, I brought it up. I need to know about it. Like, so what for listeners? Explain it to us, like you're explaining it to me. What is sim racing?
Sim racing. It's a fairly recent obsession of mine, but I've stuck with it. So more than just a regular hyperfixation. And it is.
I've justified it.
I've justified this time. All that money I spent on this hobby has been worth it. And so, I mean, we all grew up playing some sort of racing video game at some point, right? Whether it's Gran Turismo, Ridge Racer,
Twisted Metal.
Yeah, exactly. Metal. And at some point, you probably have seen a steering wheel controller, especially in the arcade, right?
Yeah. So, those are my favorites.
Exactly. So if you take that and you've got companies that make a steering wheel product, that make specialized pedals. You connect that to a computer, and I mean, it's a racing car. That the power that comes out of that wheel I have hurt myself on. I've like almost sprained a thumb on.
Mhm.
Wow. So it
The
like
brake
it gives
pedal
you
reads real pressure. Yeah, real feedback.
wow. Now how many screens are we talking?
So at one point I did do triple 27 inches, but I got tired of there's just a lot of technical ickiness with it. It was so
Getting
annoying.
motion
So,
sickness from my game. Whoa.
so I got a single like big ultra wide, like 49
Big
inch
ultra.
ultra wide, and that's a little more
That's when
pleasant.
those remember they used to do the curved TVs. That's when those
Yes.
curved TVs would have
Mhm.
been
Yeah,
good.
that's perfect.
That's
for
pretty
it.
much what Manny has, is a 49-inch
Yes.
curved
Oh,
monitor.
curved.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
See, I didn't know. Wow, that's so sim racing. So now I'm putting it together. So sim, like the game that we grew up with, sim, right? Like the sim people.
Like yeah, like in
So
the
this is what just
it's a
cars,
simulation. Yeah.
simulation cars.
Mhm.
Now, is it like a thing like you get on with buddies and you're like, hey, let's race around Europe, or is it like you jump into rooms, or are you playing levels?
It is. So I play iRacing. That's sort of my main thing is a game called iRacing, and that takes itself pretty seriously in that it calls itself a simulator, not a game.
Oh,
And
simulation.
you sign up for real races, at a certain time on a specific track with other people in the world who are
Wow.
very invested in the race that they're going to do. So if you mess them up, they're going to be very upset. And it's very competitive. I don't do it as competitively, but I get a lot of adrenaline and rush out of being on the grid with some of these
Right. Do you
wackos
show
out
up in
there
your
that are pretty
do you
fast.
show up in your space outfit and you're like, guys, this is my drag outfit. Don't make I got, just in case we catch on fire. It's fire retardant. Leave me alone.
With
You guys
all,
you guys are
all
gonna
that
get
tech
catch
on
on
me.
fire in your shorts and t-shirt. I got my fire
Wait,
retardant space outfit on.
way too hot. Way too hot. I'm in my, I'm in minimum clothing and gloves, basically trying to get through 30 minutes of a race without sweating off of the seat.
In your beater shirt, you're like, I
Yeah,
got my
dude.
gloves on, like the school bus driver. I got to put my gloves on. You got my water.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So
I'm in it.
so Manny talked me into getting a racing wheel, and I got one. I
Yeah.
don't think mine's as high powered as his, but I'll tell you, like after doing 30, 40 minutes of racing straight with one of those wheels, because the feedback's intense. Like
Mm.
you drive your normal car, and that's
Yeah.
less feedback than these. Like
It's got power steering to it.
yeah, and it's like if you hit a curb or something, like it's jerking to the point where like they have higher powered ones that are way more powered than I have, and I've seen people post online like they've literally broken wrists before from those because they get that powerful. So
But
like
they're
it's
matching
intense.
the speeds though. That's what Manny was saying. So it matches the speed that you're going.
Well, it's the speeds, but also the force that your car is doing. So if you're turning a certain way and you hit something, or if you're like if you lose control of the car all of a sudden, like
Right.
the like real life feedback is if like your wheel is spinning in the opposite direction all of a sudden because you spin out or something, like you'll feel that.
The more performant the car, do you notice the wheel changes, or is the wheel the wheel?
The wheel's got at least a top end that it can pull off, but it does vary a little bit depending on the car. So mine's got a pretty good range up to 10 Newton meters. Your average one that you get from like a Best Buy or something's probably got 2 to 3 Newton meters. And yeah, just based on the car, it'll use either half or 3/4 or all of that.
So what's your best time, and what was the distance?
That's a good question. I don't know if I know any of my good times, but I know I've had some pretty good finishes.
There, Manny.
I've gotten a couple of podiums, a couple of seconds and thirds. I haven't won a race on iRacing. You get a certificate. You get a PDF certificate when you win.
They mail it to you, or I guess that's stupid. They email it to you.
Yeah, they email it to you, but you can print it out, and I will.
That's awesome.
That's wild, man. Do you ever get so into it that after, like, if you like come in second or you lose, you're just like, or is it just more like just for fun?
It's definitely for fun, but if you signed up for, okay, I've been practicing a track for a couple of days in anticipation of doing a race on, Wednesday night that I sign up for, and I count down and I wait to, and I'm on time for, and I start and I crash in the first lap. I'm not in the best mood the rest of the night because that's the end of it, dude. I have to wait another hour before the next race. That's just how it is.
Man.
So yeah, it can be a little rough, but
so it's like real racing. So like you don't regenerate and then get back on the track. It's like you crash, you're done.
You crash, you're done. You could, respawn in the pit, but it's going to take a realistic amount of time to fix your car, and you're out. Your race is
That's
over.
wild. That's
Yeah.
that's a whole other yay sports I didn't know about. Like that's wild, man.
Yeah, and
That's
like
crazy.
the tires have normal wear and tear, and like if you hit a certain part of your car will start acting differently for the rest of the race depending on what you hit, and like it's pretty serious.
Yeah. I've spun out
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I touched that grass. I know one of my tires touched grass. I saw it.
Just 3 blades, man. It's fun out. Well, Manny, I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you took out to talk with us and to explain all of these interesting things that you
Likewise,
do
thank
to
you.
our Details Untold listeners and everything like that. So I appreciate you, sir. I wish you well, and we bid you adieu.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys. It was an honor, a pleasure, a privilege. I appreciate you both very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
again, man. It was great hanging out with you again.
Yeah, man, for sure. Good to see you.
All right.